Straight Talk Morning Show on the Straight Talk Network, and my name is Andre Hill, your host, and we have our co-host and engineer, our chairman from the United Aboriginal American Republic, Terrence Lake. How you doing this morning, sir?
Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing fine. The last 3 days, I've been working outside digging a trench, and somebody must have turned the heat on to hell because I passed out yesterday. A sunstroke, I had to lay down for a couple hours. So I bet you our temperature is hotter than yours.
Wow.
But I'm all right now. A sunstroke, I had to lay down.
All right. So, yeah, it's the rainy season here in Florida, so we have overcast, and but Detroit is hot as hell. Huh?
Oh man!
All right. So also we have our engineer and Juris Doctor of the United Aboriginal American Republic, Andre Hill Jr. How you doing, man?
Everything is copacetic.
Yeah, hey, that's a term from the '60s. Don't you know?
I think I heard it from y'all.
All right. Hey, okay. So, as usual, I post my topics on Facebook. You can, if you want to keep up to date to what we're going to be talking about on Saturdays, just go to my Facebook page, Andre Hill Sr. Now, Facebook, I don't believe the employees of Facebook is doing this, and but our Straight Talk Network show has been canceled for almost a year now. That it's been shut down. No excuse, no explanation, and now they're also making it very difficult for you to find me on Facebook under Andre Hill Sr. And so, I don't get discouraged. I get encouraged because that says to me that our message is very powerful. And if you have to go to the extent of trying to suppress the light, that's an honor because my people and our people will find a way to get this information. So we are on YouTube. If you can get to my Facebook page, you can click on the link to find us on YouTube, or you can tune in on Saturdays. We're live. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and from my Facebook page since they have shut down our Straight Talk Network page. So, we are working diligently on connecting with all of the tribes in the Americas and all of the African countries. And we're, these demons are going to keep doing this, and as long as we allow them. And so until we get our own satellites, our own network, and basically separate from their systems, we're going to have these kind of interruptions and these sort of difficulties. But we're going to keep broadcasting. And, some friends, tell them how to find us. And also send a note to Facebook that you want Straight Talk to reactivate their page. You want to be able to find Andre Hill Sr., and just send them a note because, in the absence of light, darkness prevail. They'll keep doing this, So hopefully we can get enough inquiries and change this trend. But anyway, as I posted, good afternoon, family. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube at the link on this page, or Andre Hill Sr. For some reason, I have seen the movie Sinners 3 times. And, it was incidental, and I sat there and I watched it. The last time I actually went to the movie theater and I found that the movie was on my system. I could have just stayed home. But, when you have friends and you go out, you try to accommodate people. So, but then I started thinking, why is somebody trying to send me a message, about this movie? So we're going to talk about the message that I received as to what the subliminal messaging and behind this movie, and my take on it. so far the chairman and my son, they hadn't seen it, so I got to give them a preview on what's going on. Also, and also how it relates to the struggle as Aborigines on the planet. It didn't print out right. Origines of planet Earth. Okay. We will reveal the hidden message. Also, part 2 of tuning in to the frequency that will evict evil from our planet. And it seems to be working. We talked about it on the show last week, and we talked about it on Saturday, and on Monday, Agent Orange reversed his attitude about bombing Iran and his attitude towards Israel, of them doing things out of order and violating all of these laws, international laws, for one country attacking another. So we're gonna talk about how we all can tune into that frequency, even as an experiment, you know. And so that's where we're headed. And I always type in tune in and be enlightened, which is an indicator. We have a collective of star seeds, chosen ones, whatever you call them. We refer to ourselves as the enlightened ones. And, you know, once again, this show is always creating a scenario of understanding what happened to us on this planet, you know. And the enlightened ones, we're pretty much familiar with what happened, and we're going to bring it into perspective. We know, my son and I, as astrologers, you know, that there's a basic 144 different human personalities. And so what we try to do on this show, all of you have different motivations, all of you operate on different frequencies, and this is how we acquire balance. There's 144. And 25 years ago, I wrote a book called The Second Coming, and it had all 144 personalities in the back of that book. That book, since 25 years ago, is still being suppressed. My son, he goes in, how many variables do you think there is? Because you go beyond 144.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you look at it like this. When you was interesting, you got 8 billion people on the planet. All right, you divide that by 144, you essentially got 55 million. So, you know, categorizing it by that, you know, you got 55 million people with similar personalities, which is overall, you know, true by the numbers. But once you start factoring in all of the different components of rising signs, moon signs, other planetary placements, the configuration of the housing system in there. Saying all that to say this, every single one of you out there are uniquely designed by the universe, just as unique as your thumbprint is. So it breaks down to very, very minute and specific fractions and uniqueness.
So your number is what, 144 times 144 then? Huh?
Probably 144 to the 10th power.
Yeah.
You know,
because you deal with the minute somebody was born or the hour, and you do charts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so there are other variables beyond the two. So I'm old school. When I was coming up back in the 60s, I just dealt with back, you know, you were Libra and Gemini, you were compatible, you know, and then I stepped the game up just a bit more, and I found out the year you were born has an effect. So now you could be a Libra and Gemini, but if you are a Libra dog or a Libra dragon and a Gemini dog, you're gonna have odds with each other because of the two cardinal signs. So I understand the dynamics of that, but what my son is saying, he's gone even further in the understanding the variations of you were born in the year of the dog. There's some other variations and so on. So, but that's a critical piece. So staying in sync with the topic for today. The movie Sinners. Like I said, I've seen the movie 3 times. And the movie is a setting in the South. And you got a set of twins played by Michael B. Jordan. That's correct, right, man? Mm-hmm. And he did a remarkable job in playing that split screen role. And I was intrigued at the quality of the movie. There were a few other actors, veteran actors, you know, from the Black movie scene or Aboriginal movie scene. And it was a well done movie in terms of the screen quality, but the message, there were 2 messages. It was one, a message of fear of Black folks living in the South, and that where the Klan was running its game, but then it got even deeper. It dealt with vampires, and the head vampire was a Caucasian man that all of a sudden was being chased by these so-called Native Americans. And they chased him to a house, you know, and it had turned daylight. So you know the story with vampires. If they get caught out in daylight, they start smoking and burning up. And so he ran up to this house. Now, here's the first message. When he ran up to this house, the woman, you know, held a gun to him and said, "You can't come in here." And this entity, who was a vampire, he was very cunning, and he was trying to explain to, you know, "Hey, please let me in," you know. But then he looked off to the rear inside of the front room of that house, and he saw a Klansman robe. So the woman and her husband were Klansmen. And he knew instantly, oh, I'm getting these 2 because they got evil in their heart. They're more susceptible to what my agenda, because they're already working as hate mongers to run game on the Aboriginals, the 2 Aboriginals of this land. So the minute he recognized that, he started to speak things that would get her to come in. So she let him in, and he went in with the husband, and they went in the back room. And while they were in the back room, it got quiet. The woman was at the doors again, and then that's when the so-called Native Americans approached the house. And of course, the programming is that the Native Americans, who came thousands of years after the Black Americans, and I'm saying Black because we've been brainwashed that if you're Aboriginal, the only Aboriginals were in Australia. No, all over the planet, we were Aboriginal to all of the land. And this is something we're working hard on getting our people to understand. You were the original humans in the Americas, in Africa, in Asia, Australia, South America. You were the original humans. Why? As I've said on the show over and over again, in order for you to live on the surface, you need melanin. And so melanin is a key ingredient that your phenocode was developed over millions of years, not 6 days as portrayed in the Bible. And so over millions of years, your DNA code, mostly in the women, because they have a full set of chromosomes of the mitochondrial DNA of a species that was developed over millions of years. You know, so getting back to the movie, this entity, who was a Caucasian man and the vampire, he knew that he could not enter that house without her permission. So the religious constructs and extraterrestrials from all over the universe, or even from Earth, they know that there's a covenant with the Most High and the Aboriginals on the planet. You cannot enter without their permission, because that most high entity has technology to shut these low frequency beings who operate on fear and manipulation and division. They have power over them. So let me put this in perspective, very simple. The Most High, there are beings that have evolved over trillions of years, and they are conscious. And humans, we refer to them as God. We try to create it, express it in a singular content, like there's one man. No, there is a collective of the spirits that have evolved over trillions of years, and they have acquired a consciousness, and they have become the catalyst of all life in the universe, of all conscious life. And they have learned to communicate, manipulate, and develop species. And so trying to stay, on a dual track here, the Caucasian guy, in relation to extraterrestrials, he was following protocol. When that woman said, yes, you can come into the house, he went in the back room and he bit the husband. And then after she told the Native Americans that, no, nobody's here, we good. And Native American tried to say to him, hey, look, sister, if that thing is in your house, you got some problems. And of course, the sun was going down, and the Native Americans knew that they need to get out of Dodge. So they said, hey, if you don't want our help, we will leave. So they left. She went back in the back room, and the vampire had already consumed or bitten or infected her husband. And of course, he infected her. Now, that set the stage for the whole scenario of the melanated people, that the whole scene in the South, who were the original landowners of the entire South. That set the scene, and that's where Michael B. Jordan came in. So I'm gonna stick with this scenario, Chairman. I know you haven't seen the movie. Are you familiar with what is your take? We used to watch vampire movies back in the 50s and the 60s. And what was your take? Was there a fear factor involved in it?
Well, yes, the fear factor, basically at nighttime, the vampires come out and beware, because they're looking for victims so they could suck their blood, so that was the fear factor right there. When it's night, look out. That's what I got out of it from looking at, but I didn't like scary movies, Frankenstein, the Wolf Man, and all that. I'd throw the covers over my head, So I just never was into that type of a movie.
All right. So, hey, Junior, I never advocated watching scary movies when you were coming. So, thinking about the whole scenario, I'll put it in more perspective as we continue. What's your take on a vampire and the protocol that they have to follow?
You got a minute?
Yeah. Wait, hey, shoot, man, you up?
All right. So when I say parasitic entities, vampires would be a folklore representation of that. So whenever we talking about parasitic energy or parasitic entities, vampires represent that, and on a mythological, but let's say presentative way, it puts it into a format to where it's visible. Now, the history of vampires, very, very interesting history of the concept of vampires. I know everybody's heard of Dracula, right? So the whole concept of vampires emerged from that, and Dracula was a real person. Now, whether or not he was actually biting people and consuming their blood for sustenance, jury's still out on that. But Dracula think his name was Vladimir III, and his father in Transylvania was was a part of this cult called the Order of the Dragon. Right, it's called the Order of the Dragon, and at this time in Transylvania, these are small families and clans who've been practicing the same barbaric socio-political practices that Europe had turned into at large. West and Eastern Europe, Far Eastern Europe, especially Far Eastern Europe, getting closer to the Caucasus Mountains. That's what Transylvania, that area, that's what that is. And so Vladimir's family had amassed, whatever power and wealth they had, probably more than likely through unscrupulous means, right? Now, Vlad's his nickname was Vlad the Impaler, meaning he used to decorate the yard of his property with dead people impaled on stakes. That's what Vlad the Impaler used to do, and his family. I mean, if he's like that, you imagine how he was raised, right? So, essentially, the concept of a vampire came from that actual person. And I believe they say he used to drink the blood of the people who were impaled on the stakes. This is true history, right? Or at least, I don't know. It could be folklore, but it's reported as true history, right? And so, so just making that connection, he's basically a descendant of or birthright member of some demonic group of folks called the Order of the Dragon, and their concept of what a dragon is, and they impaling people and drinking blood. So this concept or this concept of a parasitic being that emerged from his image sweeps all the way across Europe, and then all of Europe gets, for entertainment, gets interested in that folklore and took it on as a culture. And took it on. I mean, when I say took it on as a culture, they looked at that figure and that image of a vampire as a part of their, for lack of a better word, a part of their spiritual making. I mean, in other words, before they had to sweep the whole Europe with Christianity and Catholicism, these are the kinds of spiritual systems that they were believing in, vampires, right? So again, but it stuck, and this is going to segue into what you're going to talk about later about the Vatican. That whole concept of ghouls and goblins, which is also a part of Catholic belief, because they're the ones who were converted into Catholicism by way of conquest, and the ideology of Catholicism at the time included ghosts, ghouls, goblins, demons, the concept of possession. All of that came out of ancient Arabs invading Europe, converting or let's say influencing the most powerful sections of Europe into their religion, which was Christianity. And so and I'm gonna come back and say that again. Persians and Arabs, Mesopotamians, molded Europe into the religious belief that they have. How? Well, I want y'all to take a look in your own Bible and tell me where Abraham is from. Tell me where Abraham is from. It's in Genesis. It says right in Genesis. I forget the book and the name, but you can Google it yourself. Just ask Google what scripture tells you where Abraham is from. In other words, the Abraham that was called by God to leave his homeland, which was Mesopotamia, specifically Sumer, specifically the nation or the civilization that was worshiping the Anunnaki. Specifically, that's where Abraham was from. Abraham was raised worshiping the Anunnaki. It's in your Bible. Don't take my word for it. Google, where was Abraham from? But then he gets called by God to go to the land of Canaan and make new Israel. Right? Who was he called by? And again, and why is it important? Because Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, and Judaism are all what we consider Abrahamic religions. They're all predicated on whether or not Abraham would have came from his homeland and went into Canaan and turned it into Israel. Without no Abraham, you don't have none of your religions. None of them. Right? Where was Abraham from? It's important to know. So, saying all that to say this, the concept of Christianity and Catholicism that practically took over Europe, because the Vatican is in Europe. Most of Europe is some type of Catholic Christian, right? Some type of Catholic Christian. Catholicism, as they knew it back then, again, was the let's say the propagator of ghouls, goblins, demons, and being possessed by whatever. So landing this plane, getting back to what you were saying on the the evil needing permission to approach you or encroach on you. I think it's very interesting that they somehow wrote into the narrative of vampires, in other words, parasitic entities, that they need permission. In other words, they can't violate your universal law right of free will. They have to essentially manipulate or influence whatever fears or insecurities that you have that will allow them to get closer to you or convince you to further that fear. Yeah, but I'm gonna land that plane right there.
So the part where I'm attempting to line this up, the United States government, it is believed, and I have to be careful when I use that term believe, but I know that the primitive state of mind of the Caucasians that was running our governments in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, when they ran across the technology, they immediately got on it as to say, we got to get this technology and harness this power so we can continue our white supremacy agenda, because we were only created 6,000, 7,000 years ago, and we're not equal or at the same level of the original humans of melanated beings on this planet. So it got to a point where the low frequency extraterrestrials that had the technology to travel and get the permission to come to Earth only if they allowed or the humans or the species that they were going to invade or manipulate gave them permission. The Most High, the most advanced beings, put that order in. Two things: they have to show you the deceptions, they do it through whatever media, and they have to ask you for your permission, and they play on your selfishness, or your insecurities. In the case with the Caucasians who have manipulated themselves into the government positions, they knew that they needed all the technology to maintain the illusion of white supremacy. And so these little clippets were in that movie the whole time, Um, and so once you a melanated person went out into the environment with this vampire, they will bite them, and then they will become infected. So the infection could be a number of things. It could be the religion, the brainwashing of the religions. It could be the economic systems. But slowly, what is happening on this planet is that through murder, deceptions, lying, cheating, stealing, rape, they are destroying the Aboriginal people, and the population of Caucasians are increasing, even to the point with the Cabbage Patch children that we talked about several weeks ago. They want to create these Caucasian bodies because they know they are dependent upon a system of death and destruction in order for them to survive. I hope y'all get this. In order for them to survive, they have to cheat, lie, steal, murder, and kill. And that's what's going on over in Egypt right now. And so the parallel with that movie, for a lot of you that went and saw the movie, and it was a good movie, I mean, exciting, but the subliminal message was it was a demonstration of how these low frequency entities came to our planet and got permission to invade our planet, by certain humans. And it could have been in the beginning melanated people, that subscribe to the Luciferian agenda. Now, I know all of that's going to muddy the water, but we have to understand, these messages that they send to us. Ultimately, you will see the most advanced technology always winning in the end. It will win. But what is happening here on Earth, like right now, we got hundreds of Aboriginal women that we have contacted to be a part of a movement to resurrect our people, to save our children. But that demon or that European economic system will come right along every time and say, we're going to give you some money, we'll give you a job, anything for you to not join a movement to save your babies. And we are still experiencing that at this very moment. And so we are looking for star seeds, especially with the mitochondrial DNA of the whole Earth. That means women, that you got all your chromosomes. We are hoping you would get involved with this movement because it is for the salvation of your people. But for those women that are selfish and they lack this system of where it's operating, they can lock their men up, or the system gives them power over their men and over their family, and then they wonder why there aren't any men left, And so we're dealing with that sort of situation. But getting back to the extraterrestrials that went to the United States government, it said, we will share this antiquated technology of electromagnetic propulsion systems, contact lenses, laser, the fiber optic computer. That is primitive. It's advanced to us, but it's primitive to them aliens, to those extraterrestrial beings that come to this planet or come to the surface. And they manipulate us with that. And so the United States government basically said, yes, you can abduct some of these humans. They gave them permission. That means they opened the door for them to come in. And now what is happening over this planet, there's a growing of Caucasian bodies that are going to be subjected or submissive to the evil of white supremacy, which is these low frequency entities. Now, the Most High is allowing this because it's testing us. It's testing the star seeds to come together. It's testing melanated countries all over the planet to come together. Because I promise you, even Caucasian people, you don't like those bodies. That's why you are susceptible, prone to doing the things you're doing. So work on moving away from that agenda and earn your melanated body in the next life so that we can be in balance on this planet and evolve as a species. Chairman, you got any thoughts on that? before we play the tape?
You said a mouthful, especially relating to that movie. I was trying to, go back in the past of watching the Dracula movies, but the subliminal message of, how to control people. That bite was saying, if I bite you, then you're mine. You know, that's what I'm getting from your conversation with this movie. It's just something about that movie, is trying to win people over, and to do it is the bite. Now, that's what I've got.
Well, it was a very well crafted movie, but in the presentation, the vampires that initiated this was, like my son was saying, they were from the folklore is from a region not too far from the Caucasus Mountain where Caucasians originated, those Caucasian bodies. And so so when you put all of these pieces together, you'll start to understand that those souls that are in Caucasian bodies, they were bitten, and that's why they reincarnated. And we got souls right now in melanated bodies that were bitten, and they are subscribing to this agenda. Just like in that movie, when they went out and got exposed to those people, then everybody started to bite each other. And then the next thing you know, they were standing in a little a circle, and they were dancing, saying praises to the most low frequencies. What you got the light went on? Yeah, I bet you're gonna be watching that movie after that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find a way to watch it. What you just said, dancing in a circle and praising to those low frequencies. That was in the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
I sell this show all the time. I am not a basher of anybody's religion. Only thing I'm gonna do is report the facts and the history, the true history of it, right? And I'll let the audience do what you may with that information. But I'll say this: my agreeing with you on, and Chairman, when you say they were bitten. The concept of religion is equivalent to being bitten.
Yes.
And I'll explain how. Religion in general has typically always, not necessarily, let's say, spiritual practice that is in harmony with nature specifically, in harmony with the universe, and harmony with the nature on this planet. There was a comment on Facebook and on our live feed. Brother Dave Coleman. Dave is Caucasian, but I like Dave. I got respect for Dave. Dave is at all of the happenings that regard humans practicing sustainability and environmental stewardship. So I got respect for Dave. But he said something in the comments. He said, "What about the pagan ritualistic cannibalism?" Well, I understand what you mean, but that in particular, Dave, what you said, pagan ritualistic cannibalism, that's very specific to a particular area. It wasn't happening all over the world like that. Right? Or let's say small pockets of areas. In most cases, what we will call indigenous spirituality did not include pagan ritualistic cannibalism. Because you got to remember, cannibalism in general, regardless of where it's happening, is usually based on a lack of the ability of that culture to be able to cultivate and live in harmony with their ecosystem. Thus, they start eating people. That's how that happens. Let's just be real. Where is that more likely to happen? Where was probably the most of that ever happening? Probably in Europe. That's not me being racist. I don't even, to be honest, I don't even care to explain that. But let's be real. The majority of that was probably happening in Europe just based on the circumstances there, the war-torn history of Europe. And on top of that, the education level and the latitude, it's cold in Europe. Bottom line, it's harder to grow stuff in Europe than it is in some equatorial place. That's the bottom line of it. So they reverted to eating people. That's cannibalism. There's a reason for that. But the getting back to what I was, the biting of people being equivalent to religion, especially in that Mesopotamian European area, region of the world, religion was primarily for social control, because the people with the power and wealth at the time learned from Africans. Straight up, they learned from Africans on the science of us projecting our reality through our soul and consciousness. So, in order to control the reality of and keep their control and power, they need all of their subjects to be thinking this way about perception and reality.
That was another part of the scene. Once they were bitten, they were all thinking on the same wavelength.
All thinking on hive mind at the time. Yeah. All tuned in, right?
Yeah.
So now, going back to my my spiel on Abraham, because I'm gonna keep bringing that up, because again, if you are religious, more than likely you believe in an Abrahamic religion. Again, I ain't got nothing against it, but I'm just telling you what it is. I'm just telling you what it is. So going further, Abraham was called by Yahweh in particular. You call him God now, but originally, again, Genesis is a book of the Torah. You don't have a Bible without the first 5 books, which are the Pentateuch, which is the Torah. The book of Genesis is a Judaic book. You know this. Without it, you don't have Christianity, because you don't have Genesis without it. So Abraham gets called by Yahweh. That's what Jews call God, Yahweh. So I want to ask you, have you ever looked up Yahweh? Have you ever looked up who he was, where he was founded and curated? I'll tell you, he was curated in that land of Canaan. Now, outside of the Bible, actual history will tell you that Yahweh was originally a polytheistic God himself. He was one of 70 children. In other words, yes, the God of Judaism, Yahweh, was one sibling in a very large family. And he had a mom and a daddy who had names. Yahweh's parents' names was El, and I think his mother's name was Asherah. That's what they were worshiping back then. That's what they were worshiping. But eventually, you start calling that guy God. But then I'm going to ask you this as well. Have you ever looked up the origin of the word God? If you do, you will find out that it means calling or invoking. In other words, invoking meaning invoking some energy or invoking some type of spirit. Say it again, means either calling on some type of energy or calling on some type of spirit. The question is, you have to truly ask yourself, in your heart of hearts, what is that image? What is that concept of energy that you're calling on? What does it look like? Who does it look like? Or if it looked like somebody, why does it look like somebody? Why does it look like somebody to you? Who put that program in your mind? And why did they do it? It's a question. So in other words, you gotta ask yourself how and why you got bit. I'll land it right there.
So, which I'm glad You go ahead and start loading up Catholicism tape. But another scene in this movie that I paid close attention to it. There was a beautiful Aboriginal woman, and she was a metaphysical scientist. She threw the bones and did all of that. But she made, when the attack started to occur, she made it very clear that if she gets bitten, please drive a stake through her heart to free her soul from that body. And that's what a lot of our Caucasian brothers and sisters are in that dilemma. They want to be freed from those bodies that are prone to serving this evil. What would you say something?
No. I just say go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all Caucasian people, you had a melanated body in a previous life, and you got bitten. And so how do you reverse this generational curse? You got to start advocating not just to Black people, but to the original science of nature that created these bodies to live in harmony, and it got thrown out of sync when these entities were allowed to come to Earth to test us. That's all. This is just a big test. And so if you wake up in the morning and you're in a Caucasian body, you got to say, okay, what did I do wrong? And I'm going to start working on getting back to nature. But go ahead, hit that movie, man.
All right. Before we start, shout out to our sister Bernacine. She's in the building, showing a lot of support. We appreciate you, sister. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Guide and influence the course of human history. The Vatican also claims that they
gotta wait till it start all this stuff. Y'all know how Facebook and Instagram do. You can't start videos, some of them from the jump. So we're just gonna let it play through and let it play again.
They are protecting humanity from potentially destabilizing knowledge. The Vatican is hiding this from us. For centuries, the Vatican has been at the epicenter of religious authority, wealth, and mystery, but they are holding a secret far more extraordinary than we could even imagine. Deep beneath the Vatican, below even the archives, lies a secret stargate, a portal capable of transporting individuals across space and time. This stargate is guarded by the highest levels of the Catholic Church and is the key to humanity's connection with otherworldly beings. But where did the Vatican get hold of such technology? Early civilizations used to walk amongst gods, and as a byproduct, ended up possessing advanced technologies from these beings. The ancient Egyptians talk about devices capable of opening gateways to other realms, with access being restricted to the users who had genetically encoded a Jed Ankh. The Vatican have been collecting these technologies since time itself began, and many claim that they have also had a hand in many civilizations' demise. But here is where it gets even crazier. The Jesuits claim that their Stargate was a gift from these extraterrestrials, and claim they were selected to inherit, guide, and influence the course of human history. The Vatican also claims that they are protecting humanity from potentially destabilizing knowledge. The Vatican is hiding this from us. For centuries,
Okay. So, you got, wait a minute, Chairman, what do you think about the Vatican?
Well, it's well known and documented that the Vatican has a lot of artifacts that they've been going around the planet collecting. I think even with, where was that, in Iran, how they went and destroyed all those statues, but they didn't destroy them all. There were certain ones that they were looking for to take back to the Vatican. And they say that underground where the Vatican is, they've got miles of treasures, of artifacts, statues, so that just goes to show you the Vatican is very powerful, and they've got pre-knowledge of the reason why they want these artifacts, to prove their history is real, or just maybe the extraterrestrials, left some things here and they wanted to get it. They've been searching all around the world to get these artifacts. It's something about the Vatican that they're obsessed with these statues, you know, and I just can't put my hands on it, but I know it's something. I'll land that plane.
Hey, all right, go ahead, man.
Trevor, I think you brought up one of the biggest bombshells on the show. So Vatican went over to Iran, interested in some statues, and took some back. You know what it sounds like to me knowing the whole history on how the Catholic Church even started. Because again, the Catholic they go try to ban this show. But the Catholic Church is the military arm of all of the Abrahamic religious regime. The Catholic Church is the one that's responsible for sending out all of the missionaries and conquistadors and all of that. They're the ones who send out missionaries to say, hey, everybody else, y'all some savages. Your ways of life are barbaric, and y'all need to convert to what we talking about. That's the Catholic Church. That's what they do. Now, but what's interesting is they went over to Iran, because Iran is where, in between Iran and Iraq, especially right there where the Persian Gulf is where all Abrahamic religion started. That's where Abraham is from. That's where he's from. That's where the alleged Garden of Eden is, right there at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. That's where Sumer was. There's a lot of interesting artifacts in that region. A lot of them. And them wanting to go get some particular statues more than likely look like they wanted to go get some Anunnaki statues and bring them back to the Vatican. That's probably what they wanted to do. They wanted to go get some particular artifacts. I don't know for exactly what, I don't know, to either preserve,
Cover up,
or hide, or that, because again, you know, the truth is this: the gods of Abrahamic religion were first the Anunnaki, then turned into Yahweh, then turned into a mysterious God. Sounds like there was an agenda to become covert and rule from behind a curtain. So they say, hey, we got to go pick up everything that, you know, we left around the world as evidence that we here. So that we can do this from behind the scene, because as time is going on, you know, it's just natural that humans are going to become more wise and intelligent and be able to easily decipher what we got going on.
that's it,
right? Because, you know, at this time, at this particular year, on the astrological scales, the energy says that technology is going to come into place, and we ain't gonna be able to just hide, you know, or fool them with what they think is magic, but we know is technology. We ain't gonna be able to fool them for too much longer like that. So we're gonna have to pick up some of this stuff and go hide it, and make sure it stays safe. Because if they figure out what's going on, they might tear it up.
Which they did a lot in Iraq.
Yeah.
You know, and statues represent history. It predates things. So if you get something old enough, you might get something that was from another solar system, you know, that was brought here and just kept undercover. So, you know, it's very important.
Indeed.
So, you know, all right, putting all this in perspective, you know, the movies, they're required to show us, to demonstrate the truth, and it's up to you to activate your discernment device to see the hidden message. You know,
keep that point right there. Ms. Bernstein Coleman said something very interesting in the comment. She said they wanted to turn that statue into flesh and implant artificial intelligence. I think I agree with you on that.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah. So, you know, so we're waking up And to our Caucasian brothers and sisters, you know, you can start investing in eliminating your generational curse. One, and I don't want to sound like a pimping preacher, get a copy of our book, because it'll give you a layout of all the things that that you will understand how you came to be in the situation that you're in. And believe me, it's some strong psychology. You know, and don't feel that, you know, you're weak because you fell for it.
Exactly.
These beings were more advanced. They brought this technology, and depending on whatever house you was born in, you were more susceptible to falling for the game. But now you have the opportunity to listen to, we got love for you. Because see, we're required the three principles: unconditional love for all our human beings, treat people the way we want to be treated, and understand that we're all created equal. Every one of those 144 personalities has something to offer to the mix of balance. Every one of them got a different skill. And it ain't based on the bullshit in the education system. I got a PhD, so I deserve more money than you or more things than you because I subscribe to the psych ops. No, if you're created by the universe, you have a significant purpose. Even in those Caucasian bodies, you need to find it and restore balance. But go and get a copy of our book. That's your first investment, because that it's going to help give us the resources to continue doing what we're doing. We don't have to just broadcast on Facebook who wants to suppress what we're doing, or even YouTube. All of these mechanisms are ran, owned, and controlled by the Catholic Church and all of the governments that work under them. You know, so their job is to challenge us. And what we do every Saturday, we get right up and we show up, and we're going to keep on showing until we have no more gas in the tank. You know, but yeah, get involved. You know, you've invested in a whole lot of other things, but when we say invest into some melanated people that's bringing you to light to reverse that generational curse, you have not been responding. You know, and if you bought a book and Amazon is not reporting us, let us know. We'll know. Send us a message, you know, that you bought a book. And if they're not properly recording the sales, then we'll get to the bottom. Everything in darkness shall soon come to light. You know, so we have to remember this. So we're getting close to. We got 2 minutes within our 1 hour. Anything else you want to talk about on the subject of this piece here?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this. You know, they call it a shameless plug when you do that, when you say, hey, let me give you this information. Here's my book. They call it a shameless plug, but we ain't shamed, because the information we got in our books, God's Child and Lucifer's Revenge, is some enlightening information. Enlightening information. We ain't shamed at all.
Yeah, we need the resources.
Yeah.
I was stranded on the interstate. Well, it was a mistake of mine, but I couldn't call. I had to wait on the road rangers because I'm driving an old car, and that had nothing to do with it. But you know, we are sacrificing. The chairman is sacrificing. I'm sacrificing. My son. You know, we're gonna stick to it because, you know, there is an old biblical saying: "What is it for a man to gain the world and lose his soul?" So we're gonna keep doing this thing. Yeah. But, you know, one of the other component, part 2 of tuning into the frequency that will evict evil from our planet. It seems to be working based on results occurred earlier this week. So on last week on Saturday, we talked about bypassing the Abrahamic religious frequencies that they created for us. Allah, Muhammad, Jesus, all those frequencies were created by the Abrahamic religion to keep us contained and giving power to their agenda to continue to divide and conquer our species.
Very true.
So if we want to override that ignorance and their mission to continue to enslave us as a species, we got to go beyond the constructs that they created and go to the powers of the Most High. And so we didn't put a name on it. You know, like I explained, I went into the light in February of 1990. There were no names, there were no images, there was nobody even spoke to me in a language, but I knew telepathically where I was. I knew that was some powerful technology that took my soul out of my body and put it in the warmth of this beautiful light, which I refer to as the Supreme Being, meaning the Supreme Being, meaning it's a being, a collective of souls that have evolved so far in advance, they have no need for the physical plane other than to make sure that balance is maintained to the universe. So we want to tap into that source and say to it, we're getting a little tired of this test that we have, you know, of our children being murdered, starved, our women being raped, killed, our men being turned out, locked up. We're tired of it. Well, so we're going to the Supreme Being to say, remove these evil entities from our planet. We're ready to bring balance back to our planet. And that's how we're going to tap into that frequency. Just try it. Just stop playing to that low frequency images that were created by the Catholic Church, who had permission by the Most High to test our asses. Let's go beyond that. Let's go to the Supreme Being and let's say, hey, we're tired of this. We're tired of being left out in the streets, starved, not given the opportunity to develop ourselves spiritually. We're tired of it. And so what we're going to do about it, we're going to start coming together. We're going to understand those three principles. Love your fellow humans unconditionally. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And that we're all created equal. Once we start adapting that, those evil souls that are bombing cities, murdering children, starving babies, they will start to perish before your eyes. I think Agent Orange got a little touch up. Somebody sent him a message because we did the show on Saturday. On Monday, he said, I ain't messing with this no more. And now he's starting to back up from that so-called Jewish agenda of taking land that ain't theirs and then telling people you got to go live somewhere else. That ain't balance. That is not balance. So let us continue. You know, I'm not asking you, I ask you to buy a book because we need resources. But beyond that, go to the Most High. And they're not asking for money. They're not asking for anything other than you to observe those three principles. And watch what happened to Ben Netanyahu. Watch what happened to those so-called Jews that's killing people and bombing people. Just watch, you know. So let's take that time and bypass these Abrahamic religions that my son spoke of, and let's go to the main source and watch them demonstrate. I promise you, they already done demonstrated. What more proof do you need? Let's keep it up. Let's keep it up every day. Just think about it in your mind. We're tired of this. Most High, will you please intervene and remove these demons off our planet? Just say that. Say something simple like that. Most High, we're tired. We want to make a change. Watch what happens. Hey,
So you're right.
Chairman, tell them how to get your book.
God's child. I talk about a lot of things in this book, many stories, but one thing I want people to focus on is that we all came here from other solar systems, and we were put here on planet Earth. And the black man was the first man that was put here on Earth with this group, because there were groups that were put on planet Earth before we were. They got artifact proving. They've got structures that man didn't even have the knowledge to create, build big boulders, 30 feet long, 20 feet high. We can't even pick it up today. So how could a caveman do it with bones? No way. But when you read this book, it'll open your mind. It'll let you know a lot about history. And you can get it from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or go to my website, www.godschildren.biz. And I promise you, you won't regret it. You will enjoy it. And you'll read it faster than what you think because it's an easy read. Thank you.
All right. So also we got our book, Lucifer's Revenge. So what is happening when you buy a book? It explains that's Lucifer when he was living in another solar system, and then when he came to Earth, he had to incarnate into a reptilian subspecies, and how he contaminated the planet. So in this book, it explains the true history of Earth. And my son did a remarkable job on showing the astrological periods of how it's going to affect you. And is a playbook for all you star seeds to understand how we're going to do this, what we're required to do. If you're a star seed, meaning if you felt that you was different when you were a child, if you saw you were more benevolent than the other children, you got something that you came here to this earth to do one thing, demonstrate by example, and start the ripple effect. So get a copy of this book. I promise you, I'm not going to go out and buy a Rolls Royce or a 12 mansion house with 12 rooms. I can't. I don't want to try to keep all that clean. Then I got to bring people in and all that. Me and my son, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment downtown.
Y'all know what we're going to do with the money? We're going to go buy land and resources so that we can help your babies be sustainable and safe in the future.
That's right.
That's what we're going to do with the money.
That's right. Go ahead, close us out, man.
I think it's been a good show. We ain't too far past the hour. And this has been the Straight Talk Network show. As always, we love y'all. Peace out. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Conversation, peace.